Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier. I think you're going to find this presentation particularly useful. It will provide a lot of material that you can use as examples of ways in which the American economy, or at least parts of it, was booming in the 1920s. And in the second half of the presentation, I'll be showing you how. So here goes. Now the car symbolised this new age, and I included some of this in my video on the Roaring Twenties. But the car really opened up life for people. Its impact can hardly be exaggerated. From simple things like visiting family and friends more easily, or a trip into town for shopping in rural communities, the car also allowed families to move to the suburbs, take a trip into the countryside or to the beach, and to go on holidays more than they had ever done before. Whilst I have to repeat, if mischievously, it also meant young people could escape their parents. There had been 9 million cars on the roads at the end of World War I. By 1929, there were 26 million. There was one car to every 5 Americans by the end of the 1920s, compared to 1 to 43 people in Britain. The number of buses increased too, whilst the number of trucks tripled to 3.5 million by 1929. Henry Ford introduced the assembly line in his car plant, and he had a simple design for his Model T and allowed few variations to it. It revolutionised the way things were produced. By 1927, he was making a car every 10 seconds, at prices many Americans could afford. What's more, he doubled his workers' wages to double the national average wage. The car did so much to stimulate other industries and create jobs too. In the metal industries, the car industry took almost 30% of all steel. It took 80% of all rubber. It took 75% of plate glass, leather too. And of course, the oil industry benefited, as cars and trucks accounted for 90% of petrol consumption. The construction industry benefited enormously as new roads were built, almost 400,000 kilometres of new roads, as the total extent of roads in America doubled in the 1920s, and with road construction employing more people than any other industry in America. Petrol stations and diners and motels were also built, and the construction of new shops, including big department stores, and of course car showrooms, new factories and offices, banks and finance companies, advertising agencies, were all linked, at least in part, to the car, and contributed to the boom in the construction industry. More jobs, more people with money to spend on consumer goods, and more profits. And so the virtuous circle continued to grow. But how does this help you in your exam? Well, let's look at some potential questions. And you might want to hit the pause button to read my slides. And if it were me, with my old eyes, I would need my laptop. So first, an A question. Describe the impact of the motor car on life in the USA in the 1920s. Not going to read through my answer. You can go back to that. But do you notice how I took one thing from each different slide in the presentation? So how much more was left? You have far more knowledge than you need to get full marks. And did you notice how I took all the stats out of the answer? I could maybe remember some, but I'm still earning full marks with what I've written. Next, question B. Why was the expansion of the motor industry important for the economic boom? Now, question B needs 2 paragraphs. I would write one on the car industry itself and one on how the car industry helped other industries. But I'm only sharing one of these paragraphs with you. This time, notice the way I've expanded on what I put in the body of my presentation, so as to better explain the significance of my points. Explain the significance. And finally, question C. How far was the expansion of the automobile industry responsible for the economic boom of the 1920s? Explain your answer. Now here you will want a 3-paragraph answer. I really think 3 paragraphs are enough. For the car paragraphs, just go to the B question on the previous slide. The knowledge or the facts don't change, just the question, even if you might apply that knowledge differently sometimes. As for factors other than the car industry, take your pick. American resources, the boon to the economy accruing from World War I, or Republican policies. So, I think this has been a really useful presentation for you, and I hope you can transfer what I've tried to explain to you here to different questions. Getting that top grade is not just about your knowledge of history, though that's important. It's about exam skills too. And I might as well give myself a plug. If you want more help with that, you might want to consider tutorials with me. Why not see if I have a slot? You can contact me at historymadeeasier@gmail.com. And don't worry about the cost. If I have a slot available, I'll sort something out with your parents. I'm not in this to get rich. Just as well, really. But for now, I'll just thank you, as always, for listening. Cheers.